Everybody right now at this point is trying to get summer ready, right? But most people are going to go about it in all the wrong ways. So what's the first thing that you tell somebody who wants to lose weight sustainably without wrecking their metabolism or destroying their relationship with food?
Yeah, I think they're when I'm working with clients, it's a lot about trust and it's about fueling the body. It's more often than not now I'm working with people to eat more. And it is strategically eating more protein and supplementing around supporting lean muscle mass or muscle protein synthesis. Because when you think about sustainable weight loss, if someone were to go ahead and do a fad diet, or let's say they were microdosing or macrodosing Ozempic or some type of peptide, it would be really easy and quick to lose 5, 10, 15 pounds. A lot of times when you're doing that type of a yo-yo diet or something that's really fast, you're losing about 50% muscle, 50% fat. And when, all the peptides came out and they were in the news a lot more, everyone was saying like, you lose all your muscle mass. It's like, hello friends. Anytime you do a fad diet where I don't care if it's a juice cleanse or like the cabbage soup diet or some kind of crazy keto type of a diet, you're gonna have some muscle wasting. And so for sustainable weight loss and body composition changes, we're looking to put on lean muscle mass because that's a working metabolism. Every pound of muscle that you put on your body burns somewhere between 50 and 75 calories a day. So let's say I just get, most of the time I'm working with women, maybe they're between 30 and 40 years old, put 4 pounds of lean muscle mass on, and then all of a sudden at the minimum we're burning 200 more calories a day. And as you know, I'm not like a real calorie stickler, but just understanding resting metabolic rate and how muscle works to your advantage to not only balance blood sugar, provide you with a lot of energy, but gives you so much flexibility when it comes to the food that you're eating. And so a lot of times I'm working with women to look at their day, make sure they're getting 1 gram per pound of body mass. And if someone really craves a lot of sugar, maybe they're drinking alcohol, they're snacking, I may bump them up to 1.25 grams for the first 10 days to 2 weeks. That's a really good way to regulate hunger hormones because protein is the strongest lever to pull when it comes to regulating hunger hormones and getting rid of those cravings. I mean, that's why people take Ozempic is the cravings go away. And we can do that strategically with protein. Women, a lot of times that hunger regulation can happen if we dose protein earlier in the day. I'm okay with a fasted workout, but I want them eating protein at least, 30, 60, at the longest 90 minutes after a workout just to kind of see those changes. And we're leaning into animal protein. I used to, as you know, in my second book, I did a whole chapter dedicated to plant-based eating and making sure you're balancing your blood sugar in a plant-based way if that's how you choose to eat. But as I move through pregnancy, breastfeeding, I'm not in perimenopause. Like I'm cycling in a state where I know iron intake is so critically important for me. And I know as I move into those stages of life, when hormones start to drop, I need that protein to hold on to lean muscle mass and not get sort of the typical perimenopause, menopause like pooch or, gain that 10 to 15 pounds that I've seen clients really struggle with. So yeah, I mean, it's like beating a dead horse around here. Like, let's eat some protein, but let's also be strategic with our supplementation and the timing of that for putting on lean muscle mass to work for you.
So eating more protein can actually cause you to consume fewer calories over the course of the day.
Oh, yeah. And it also lasts longer in your body. So an average blood sugar curve goes up 90 minutes and crashes down for 90 minutes. That's why in the olden days, they used to say eat a meal 5 to 6 small meals a day. Because if you had breakfast at 6 a.m. and you had a snack at 9 a.m. and you had lunch at noon and then 3 and then 6, you see how that works. Like, we're supporting blood sugar balance, not because we're eating foods that support blood sugar balance. Because back in the day, it was like whole wheat bread and chicken and rice. And I'm not anti-starch, but to understand that a high dose of protein, some avocado, like a healthy fat, or some non-starchy vegetables, broccoli, cauliflower, cucumber, whatever, can support your body to elongate that curve. Instead of going up and down in that 3-hour window, you see an elongated curve that can go for 4 to 6 hours. So I'd much rather see people eat 3 meals a day with a higher dose of protein. And even to the point where if I really have like a binge eating type of a client or someone who really feels out of control with food, I might make them eat a minimum of 50 to 60 grams of protein for their first meal of the day. And it completely turns off hunger hormones. It makes you feel so calm and relaxed, and they can roll into lunch and it's almost, there's no appetite, but I'm forcing them to eat. And then it's easy to eat what I tell you to eat because you don't have the cravings for what, would normally catch your attention at the Erewhon checkout.
Yeah. It's such great advice. I feel like a common pitfall for people who are prone to a more plant-based slant in terms of their diets is consuming foods that they've heard have protein in it, but aren't necessarily high protein foods. For example, nuts and seeds and quinoa.
Yeah.
And things like that. Is that something that you see?
Unfortunately, when you look at plant-based sources of protein, very few are mostly protein. So one of the things that is really important for my clients and even the readers of my book to understand is, what is it mostly? I don't need you to know in your head what the Chronometer or the MyFitnessPal tells you about that food. You need to look at it and say, okay, a chicken breast is mostly protein. A lean steak is mostly protein. Okay, well, what is a bean? Is it mostly carbohydrates? It is. It's mostly carbohydrates. It's not mostly protein. What is a nut and a seed? It's mostly fat. It's not mostly protein. And so unfortunately, they're just, the protein sources when it comes to plant-based foods, they're not ever mostly protein unless you're using a plant-based protein powder, and that is an isolate. That's strictly a protein powder. I would say the most promising plant-based protein would be the chocho bean or the lupini bean. It's a ketogenic bean that's high in fiber, and it's actually mostly fiber, but it is really high in protein. So it's not going to affect blood sugar. It's lectin-free. It's a complete protein. And, in South America, they put it in ceviche. It's like a white, meaty bean. So easy to digest. It mostly is like soaked prior to processing. So even if you're like going to eat it as a bean, Brahmi makes a fermented lupini bean, just like little pack. It's kind of like a marinated pack with an Italian dressing on it, or like a citrus type of flavor or whatever. That is a great snack, but still, even that, like you're having that, and the protein amount is 8 grams. It's not getting you the leucine rich muscle protein building style protein. So it becomes more difficult. And a lot of times diving into the literature, I think there's just a belief that it's just a healthier way of eating. And I was just even on a podcast earlier today with a female wellness influencer who leans mostly plant-based, and in kind of diving in, it was mostly like, I'm worried about the antibiotics fed to the animals. I'm worried about, the hormones. I'm worried about how it would affect my hormones. And I'm sitting here going like, oh my gosh, like how amazing you would feel if you actually worried about your human health and your hormones versus what was happening, and yes, of course, I'm a huge proponent of regenerative farming and amazing brands, like Force of Nature, or you sent me First Light, which was that Wagyu was
chef's kiss. So good.
Seriously, so good. But even looking at, the creatine literature, which is kind of interesting. There was a study on vegans and vegetarians, and not a placebo group and a 5-gram creatine group, and they did some testing on memory, recall, and intelligence, and they found that the creatine group saw a 20 to 50% increase in their testing scores when they were dosing with creatine. So there's no source of plant-based creatine. And it's, one of the most researched supplements on the market. And if someone does want body composition changes, I do use it. And it's specifically interesting to see like a plant-based client be willing to take creatine or be willing to take collagen in a supplement form. But sometimes it's just a texture thing, or they're in their head about it. So
yeah.
It's hard.
Well, supplementary creatine is it's synthesized. It's like neither plant-based nor animal sourced.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's like, you can get over that, and you can also get a marine-based collagen, things like that if someone's really worried about it. But yeah, I mean, that's a supplement that I'm loving for body composition change, is essential amino acids.
Hey, if you like that video, you need to check out this one here, and I'll see you there.